Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition, the Friday edition of Bible Time. And as we head into the weekend, we're looking forward to some great things this weekend. This evening, Friday night, we have a men's event at the church. We're going to talk about what it means to know God, talk about knowing God. What an important thing in these days. We need to set our eyes on the things above, not on the things of this world. We're going to talk about that tonight at our men's event. Then on Sunday morning in our services at 9:11, we're going to be observing the Lord's table. And if you can join us at the church, we'll have the elements there. They'll be safely provided and delivered to you during the service. If you are not able to join us for whatever reason, we would encourage you as you watch the live stream that you would participate with us. So if you haven't already, you might buy some cracker or bread and some juice, so that at the appropriate time, as you're joining with us in the service by means of live stream, that you can join in with us. And we're looking forward to a great time together this weekend. But today we're continuing in 1 Samuel, and we're looking at the life of David and his conflicts with Saul. We're going to look at chapters 27 and 28, and if there's one word that could describe these two chapters, it'd be the word desperation. Desperation. At the end of chapter 26, we saw that David had spared Saul's life again, and Saul had confessed to his sinful attitude towards David. But David doesn't quite believe Saul, and maybe with good reason. But instead of continuing to trust the Lord like he has, he says, the only way I'm going to get away from Saul, the only way I'm not going to get killed by Saul is if I go and live with the Philistines, because if I go and live with the Philistines, well, then he won't chase me there. And so David, in fear and desperation, goes and lives with the Philistines. He doesn't inquire of the Lord about this. In fact, the last instruction he received from the Lord about where to live was back in chapter 22, verse 5, when he was told to live in the land of Judah. Well, he's not doing that anymore. And, he's got wives, he's got children, he's got 600 men, they have families. He's maybe concerned about, we can't keep living in caves all the time and doing what we're doing. And so he says, let's just go to the Philistines. And he makes friends. I mean, when you walk in with 600 men, the king of Gath is predisposed to liking you. And he knows that Saul and David are in a conflict, and so the Philistine king is welcoming to him. And David eventually asks for a city, and he's given the city of Ziklag. And he and his guys go and set up their homes there in Ziklag. This gets them out from under the surveillance of the Philistines. And what they do is they perform raids on the people around there, Canaanites, people who had been living in Canaan, and wiping them out so that no word can get back as to what he's really doing. And then when Achish asks him, what are you doing? Well, he says he's making raids on Israel cities. And he's naming cities that are far enough away that the Philistine king, he can't really verify this information. What is David doing? He's lying. He's lying about this. This is what happens when you live in desperation and fear. You make bad decisions, and then you have to make more bad decisions, and in fact sin to cover up your first bad decision. That's what you see. That's what you see David doing. And he may have justified it. He may have thought, well, these are like wartime conditions. So the Philistines, they're my real enemies. I don't tell them what I'm doing. He may have justified it that way. And in reality, he is fulfilling God's plan for wiping out those people. That was the command given to Joshua. It had never completely been done. And so he is fulfilling the Lord's plan there. So the Lord, again, we see the Lord's providence in that he is overruling even these decisions that David is making to accomplish his ultimate purposes. But here you see David acting in desperation. That's what you see in chapter 27. One little footnote for you Bible nerds out there. In verse 6 of chapter 27, it says that Achish gave him Ziklag, okay, And it says, therefore, Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah to this day. What? What day? Well, if you're talking about kings of Judah as opposed to kings of Israel, then you're talking about a time after the kingdom has been divided between a northern kingdom of Israel, a southern kingdom of Judah. You're talking about a time after Solomon. So when was the book of 1 Samuel written? It was written after that time, drawing from a number of sources, but no doubt some of them that Samuel had written himself. But the book was put together sometime after Solomon was king. That's just a little footnote for Bible nerds. And by the way, if you're going to be a nerd, Bible nerd is the best kind to be. These are the kind of things Bible nerds pick up on. But anyways, that's chapter 7. That's David's fear, David's desperation. Chapter 28, you see Saul's desperation. It's bad. You see the desperation of David, the godly man. Now you see the desperation of Saul, the ungodly man. And the Philistines are hunkering down for war against Israel again. And where they are, they're in Shunem, is in the valley of Megiddo, the valley of Jezreel, or we know it maybe as Armageddon. It's this massive flat plain in northern Israel, the valley of Jezreel, the valley of Megiddo. And on the eastern side are the mountains of Gilboa. That's where Saul is. And Saul's looking down on this valley and seeing this massive Philistine army, and he gets afraid. And so he's seeking help. Well, Samuel's not around anymore. He's not getting anything from dreams. He's not getting anything from the priests. He's not getting any kind of information because God has forsaken him. And so he gets desperate and he looks for a medium. Now, mediums were not supposed to be allowed in Israel according to the law. And Saul had apparently given the order to remove all of them. But now in his desperation, he's looking for one. And here's the interesting thing. As soon as he brings it up, his servant says, oh yeah, right away. He knows about one in Endor. What? So anyways, Saul goes to see this. And Saul actually has to risk his life because Endor, he has to go through the Philistine line to get there. That's where your desperation, your sinful, fearful desperation will take you. He's risking his life to get to this person. And then, she's kind of clever and says, how do I know I'm not being set up for a trap? And Saul promises her that nothing bad's going to happen to her. And so then all of a sudden, a vision of Samuel appears. Now, we're not given a whole lot of commentary on that, but you can believe it was a vision of Samuel. I mean, this lady, this medium, this witch of Endor, she's used to dealing with demonic powers, but now she sees something she's never seen before. And this, I believe, is God doing something supernatural here and having the spirit of Samuel speak to Saul. And Samuel doesn't have kind words to say to Saul. And in fact, he says, you are going to be here. You're going to be dead soon. It's a prophecy of the doom of Saul given by Samuel. So this is what happens when you act in desperation. Now, this is setting things up for the death of Saul, which is going to pave the way for David eventually becoming the king. But this is a big time warning to you and me as you look at what it's like to live in fear. You see David doing it, you see Saul doing it, but you see the Lord providentially at work in all of this, destroying the Canaanites like he had initially purposed to do, and giving the vision of Samuel to pronounce doom on Saul. The Lord is using this fear and desperation. It doesn't thwart his plans, but it's never good for us to live in fear. David needed to remember the words of his friend Jonathan, who had come to him earlier in chapter 23, verse 17. Jonathan said to David, do not fear. Do not fear, do not be anxious, do not be worried. Most common expression in all of the Bible, because we are so consumed with our own self-preservation that we will act in fear and we will do desperate things. What a valuable lesson that we learned today. I trust that these times in God's Word are helpful to you, and we're looking forward to having a great weekend together, learning more from the Lord and worshiping His great name. God bless you.